journaling time.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
How about now?
Yes.
Mute button. My bad, folks. What's up, party people? It's Alex and Alex coming back at you with another edition of Journal Party Live. See, we got some people in the chat. Annie's here first. Monique, what's up?
Hello.
Jessica's here, first timer,
Yes,
not
welcome.
journaling. Welcome, welcome. All right, Katie's in the house. Mary Kay is here. All the usual suspects. What's up, Jen? Nahal. Appreciate the testimonial. You're getting lots of people to sign up for the challenge, so appreciate you, Nahal. Melissa, Geeky Witch, what's up? What's up? Deidre's here. Liz is here. Long time no see. Misty, long time no see. Yeah, hopefully we sorted out the volume issue. My bad. Yep, okay. Yeah, people are letting us know. My bad. Well, hopefully you can hear me now. You can hear girl Alex. That's good. All right. Queen Alex. I like that. I like it.
Yes, I like that. I'll take that.
Honeymooners. All right, cool. Well, I'm glad you made it. For the new folks, welcome, welcome. This is Journal Party Live. This is just a small but mighty part of our fantastic community and program that we have here. And basically what we do here is we like to journal through the newest programs inside of the Journal Party app. And if you don't have the Journal Party app, let me throw up a little QR code there. You can scan that, or you can just go to the Apple App Store or Google Play. And there's even a web-based version. You can just go to journalparty.com, or if you don't want to click an extra link, you can just go to app.journalparty.com, and that'll plug you right in to our web app. And that said, you don't need the app for this evening because we'll be streaming it on here, and I'll be reading the prompts to you. And we'll be journaling through this whole thing together. Tonight's program is called Pattern Shift. And the idea is to identify a pattern that isn't serving you. I put this one together because I realized that there's a few lessons that I keep having to relearn over and over again in my life. And until, I actually bring some awareness to that and learn those lessons, I feel like I'm doomed to repeat them. Anybody else have that experience? Anybody? I think it's fairly common in the human experience. And, whether it's spiritual or not, we're experiencing it. And so I think the best thing that we can do is shine a light of awareness on it. And from there, you can decide what you want to do with it. And so the idea here is we're going to be identifying a pattern that doesn't serve us, trying to understand that pattern, break it down a little bit. And then what we'll do is we will try to reframe the whole situation and hopefully develop something that we can replace that erroneous pattern with. So it should be a pretty good program. We've got 10 prompts for you this evening, 3 minutes per prompt. Hopefully that's enough. usually it is for these sessions. Every now and then we get into something that's a little bit deep, and if you've got a little bit more in the tank for some of these prompts, you can always visit the actual program if you have Journal Party Premium. And if not, you can just access this for free by going to our YouTube channel. The replay will be hosted there, as well as inside of the app, we have a little section called Journal Party Live, aptly named. And you can go in there and watch the replays whenever you like. But that said, let's focus on the here and now. Tonight, we're going to be jamming through 10 prompts to help you with a pattern shift. Alex, did you have anything you wanted to add to that while I take a look at what's going on in the comments?
I just want to say hello to the Journal Party family, and I'm excited to be here again.
Awesome. Yeah, glad to have you back. I think last time was super fun. It's really nice to not just be talking at a chat and having somebody to converse with. So appreciate you there. And premium members, if you check the community section of the app, you will find a link if you want to join us on camera at any point in the evening. So that's there for you. And let me just double check what's going on. Okay, Lena's saying, how do we identify them patterns? Yeah, well, we'll prompt you. Hopefully the prompts direct your mind in the direction of the answers for you. And that said, I try to present this as a caveat before we do these things. This is super casual, right? So even though this, sometimes we go deep in our work here, I want you to be brave, but be nice to yourself. If the perfect answer doesn't come, don't sweat it. Oftentimes just the act of prompting yourself will make those answers come, usually when they're supposed to come. That's my theory on the whole thing. I think that, there's some divine timing with all of this where, if the perfect response isn't coming up right now, don't be surprised if it shows up later. And if it shows up now, that's awesome. Let's see, we got another one. Paulette, not easy to get here. It looked like I just needed to click on the link in the email. Wish you had specified that I needed to click on YouTube. So actually, this is being streamed in a few different places. It's being streamed in the Facebook group. It's being streamed inside of our YouTube channel. And it's also being streamed inside of the app. So I'm sorry it was difficult for you to get here, but the easiest thing to do would probably be to subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure that the notifications are turned on. Or you can set a reminder in your calendar or reminders app, whatever it is that you have. We do this every Wednesday for the most part at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the link is always the same. It's always app.journalparty.com/live. And you can always just open up the Journal Party Live section in the app. So I hope that helps. But we'll do our best to try to make it a little easier for you all to get here. All right. So is everybody ready? I think it's time to get this party started. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit the Start Now button. Again, I will read the prompts. Actually, Alex will help read some of the prompts as well. And we'll kind of fade off into the background doing our own journaling. And at the very end, we'll all hang out and share our insights. That's how this thing typically works. All right. So let's get this party started. Here comes prompt number 1. Pattern radar. What's one recurring challenge or feeling that seems to show up again and again? Just start writing.
Trigger tracker. Think of a recent moment that triggered stress or frustration. What kicked it off?
Next prompt, auto response check. What's your go-to reaction in tough moments? What do you usually do, say, or feel?
Roots and repeats. Where do you think this pattern came from? When do you first remember it starting?
All right, that one cut deep for me. Hidden payoffs. What might this pattern be giving you, even if it's unhelpful?
cost calculator. What is this pattern costing you emotionally, mentally, or even physically?
Next prompt, flip the script. How would you rather respond when this pattern shows up?
Micro shift moment. What's one small change you can make next time this pattern appears?
Future self speak. Imagine your future self has already changed this pattern. What advice would they give you?
Anchor the upgrade. What new mantra, habit, or reminder can help lock in your new pattern?
All right. Nice job, party people. Let me adjust. There we go. All right. I'm getting used to having another person on screen. It's very cool. How'd you do with that, Alex?
Pretty good. I think I came across a few patterns that I didn't even realize necessarily. But yeah, it was very helpful. What about you?
Pretty good. I mean, I worked through pretty much one like unifying pattern or issue for me. And I think, the best way that I can articulate it would be just this feeling or thought that that I'm not enough. You're not enough. It's not enough time, not enough money, not enough. You haven't put enough effort. Just fill in the blank on whatever the end of that is. But ultimately, it's it's pretty deep. And I tried to be brave and look it up. And I mean, I've discussed some of this stuff on here before. And while I had a fantastic childhood, I did grow up with an older brother who was just like a supreme overachiever, and he was 10 years older than me. And so, whether he realizes it or not, he left this this really difficult template and these really big shoes to fill. And I always looked up to him, still do. But I noticed that he would get a lot of love and a lot of attention for all of the achievement and all the, whether it was, being best in his class, or going to, an Ivy League school, or, getting an amazing job that paid him a lot of money, and, seeing how hard he worked and how much he was rewarded for that, and how much love and attention that he got for that. And so, of course, seeing that as a kid, I would try to emulate that, to get that kind of love and attention myself. But ultimately, I'm a very different person. And so, that's a lesson that I've had to learn over and over again, is that, my value comes from different things, and that I am, more than enough in a lot of ways. It's just a very different thing. But, I think as humans, a lot of things can kind of be boiled down to sort of like a transactional nature and understanding for us. And that's how I think I took those things in. And actually, for the longest time, it was okay. There was that one prompt that was like, what are the hidden benefits, right? I did get a lot out of it. It motivated me to work really hard in school, to learn the skills that could earn me the kind of money that I wanted to earn, but not really that I cared about earning. It was the kind of money that I could tell my parents that I was earning, and things like that. So it wasn't until I began running into difficulties, like, hey, I didn't get into Harvard. So, that was a tough day, because, from the time that I was 8 years old, that was sort of like a weird expectation. What a weird expectation to put on an 8-year-old, right? And so I know my folks didn't intend for that to be what happened. And again, I really had an amazing childhood. So I can't be too upset about it, but these things are there, even with all that, all the privilege that I grew up with, and all of the great experiences as a kid. Those things are there. And then as you grow up and you run into difficulties, right? Like, I did do well with my first business, but when it wasn't doing so well and I needed some help, there was a lot of shame and like just asking for help, because I had decided that I needed to have this identity of somebody who had it all figured out, had it all together, and had accomplished enough, and had earned enough, had done enough. And so I still run into it. We run a lot of ads for Journal Party, and unfortunately, that it's if I don't know if anybody knows about ads or anything on here, but it's a really volatile thing, trying to throw an offer out into the wild, into social media. And sometimes things that are outside of your control, Mark Zuckerberg changes things in policies in the app, or anything. It could be a million other things other than me. But I think the way I react to it is I have this like insane panic, and I just need to do something to change it, to fix it, because God forbid I'm lazy and not doing enough about this thing that's showing up in awareness that I don't like. And so I noticed that, that's what I do, is I immediately throw myself into the deep end and try to fight my way out of whatever situation is coming up. And I think that working through these prompts was super helpful, because I realized that, well, I don't always take the best action when I'm in that frame of mind, when I'm, trying to immediately like, get it away from me. All that is just amplified resistance. And so I think what I've realized is I would be better served by taking a beat, taking a breath, and maybe trying to analyze the thought that's coming in. If I'm telling myself I am not enough, well, maybe I can question that. I can say, is that true? Because it's not. If I really sat with that for some time, I could look around at all the evidence, all the wonderful things in my life, the people, the actual physical stuff, but also like the love that surrounds me, and things like having this sort of outlet, this sort of community. And there's so much evidence to the contrary. But our minds are crazy. As much as they're this amazing tool where we can do things like prompt ourselves and really chart a course for growth, a lot of times our mind gets linked up, I think, with the story that we've developed about ourselves and the drama that we've developed about ourselves. And because we wrap our identity around that, we don't want to we will actively fight anything that comes into conflict with that, even if that's not like the healthy thing to do. So this was very enlightening for me to be able to say, okay, well, first off, this is something that you're doing regularly, and you also, you have the ability to break out of that. And I think that ability really only comes with that awareness and that decision. Like, I've decided now that when that happens, I'm going to take note of it. I'm going to, hopefully I maintain this sense of awareness, but I can do something different. Instead of launching out of bed and immediately taking a million actions that may or may not help me, what I can do is I can be a human being and decide how I want to show up in the world. And I think that from there, that's a much better place to be in. The reality of whether or not I'm in danger or whatever, like, look, life happens. Things happen that could be difficult, and you may have to deal with them. But to pause and to bring some awareness, some presence, and some intention to the present moment, I think that'll serve me. So I'm sorry for being so long-winded, but this was really great for me. It's always nice when when the things that you put together, like with best intentions, actually do work. This works for me, so I'm pretty happy about that. All right, so I see tons of stuff popping up in the chat here. I saw oh gosh, I don't know if Rowena is still here. I'm sorry I couldn't answer your questions, Rowena, while you were working on this. But yeah, I guess there was a little confusion as far as what we're doing. It's pretty simple. You read the prompt, you write it down on whatever you got to write on. And if you don't have a journal to write in, we're giving them away for free. You can actually scan that link there, that QR code, or visit our website. We've got links on there, and all you got to do is cover shipping. We'll be happy to send you a high quality notebook that you can write in, but you don't even need that, to be honest. You can write in whatever you like, and all you do is read the prompts, answer the question, and hopefully you come out better on the other side of it. So I don't know if she's even here. I think she was frustrated and left, but happens. Tina says, Tina was trying to help, just answering the questions in your journal. Awesome. Appreciate the party people picking up the slack for me. Awesome. All right. Okay, I'm seeing lots of people trying to help her out. Okay, good. All right. Jessica says, wow, I really enjoyed this. Really opened up some new thoughts for my pattern. Cool. Well, I'm glad this was useful for you. It was definitely useful for me as well. Jen said, sorry to bail quick tonight, but I got a college kid moving home tomorrow. Congrats, I think. And need all the sleep I can get. Lame, I know, but Mom, I must. Well, do what you must. She says, love you all. See you all next week. And, well, Jen, glad you made it, and I hope everything works out at home. Sandra says, yes, really made you think. Tina says, right, gave me some gray insights, and I'm guessing that's great insights, and it helped me a lot, and I'm going to use my answers. Tina says, it helped me out a lot, too. I answered my own questions and solved an issue for me. Great. Love it. Love it when it works. It's nice to have this not just be like, oh, I think this will work. Like when people are like, oh, this really helped me. I'm like, yes, I'm glad I spent time on that. Nahal, you gave me a good idea to start calculating the future cost of my current decisions. Yeah. I mean, you know what? We could probably put together some tools for we do have like a decision maker program. But that you're right. Like just even mapping out like the potential future costs of something, I think is a pretty, pragmatic way to do things. So, yeah, maybe I'll steal that idea. Speaking of ideas, I actually had an idea here because I was thinking about like, well, what can I do to stop my thing, right? My pattern. And it was, examining some of the evidence to the contrary. Well, it's like, well, how could I do that? Well, I mean, I do write down my goals all the time, but you know what I used to do is actually write down gains in addition to goals. And I think that's useful. And I think what I'm going to do is probably create a little section in the premium community in the app so that people can just log the gains, the good things that are showing up in their lives. I think the more that you pay attention to that sort of thing, the more they show up. And also, it's just great to have that record, right? So when I'm being a jerk to myself in my mind, I can go back and toot my own horn a little bit. Liz says, my pattern was/is imperfection equals you're a disappointment. Yeah, it's similar to mine too. The new thing I realized, and I thought I wasn't putting that on other people, so I need to balance correct anger with not having a freeze, flight, or fight response due to fear of being a disappointment, which leads to not trying, which is self-fulfilling. So that's interesting, because they say that people are either trying to move towards gratification or pleasure or away from pain. And I feel like yours was articulated as kind of like the moving away from pain version of mine, because I resonate with that a lot. Like, as much as I wanted to get that love and be enough, to make my parents happy and for them to be proud of me and stuff like that, I think I'm also equally afraid of not being enough and getting in trouble and being I guess yelled at, or I don't know. it's weird. It's like that doesn't even happen. It doesn't even happen to me. But like, right? There's a great quote about anxiety. I think it was Mark Twain, right? Like, or about worry. Like, the things that you worry about, most of them never happen. Right? So. She says, yeah, so I relate with Alex. Melissa says, my pattern was shutting down and appearing to be able to handle anything out of fear of being seen as being incapable or weak. Kind of a different form of the same thing Alex is talking about. Yeah, okay, well, look, that's, as much as I'm sorry that that's been your experience, it's really helpful to see that other people are kind of going through the same thing, and together. That I think that's one of the coolest things about this kind of group, is that we can be here to support each other and bring perspective to these things, because I think journaling, it's traditionally pretty solitary, and you can write down these things and maybe have these realizations, but I think the cool part is when you actually bring that realization to the group, and then it's we can pick it apart, validate it, and share different perspectives and insights. I think it's a faster way to learn and grow. So sorry that's the pattern, but hopefully this was helpful, and it's just, for me, it's super helpful to relate. So appreciate you sharing all that. Annie says, growing up with an alcoholic dad that also wanted a perfect child, making mistakes wasn't celebrated, so not being perfect wasn't safe. Now I can ask myself, am I safe? And it slows my brain down, so I am less likely to overreact and self-destruct. That's a great mantra. One of the things that I've learned that I think has been particularly helpful for me, when you're analyzing, or when something comes up, like just anything that's bothersome to you, usually you can map it back to three things. One being wanting approval, another being wanting control, and the other one is wanting safety or security. So I don't know if anybody's ever checked out Sedona Method. That's where I learned that. So I don't want to steal the credit for that insight, but I mean, in this case, it sounds like a little bit of all three, but I think that it's helpful to categorize that. And you know what, like the wanting to be safe, like that's like it almost like encompasses the others. And so much of what we do is just out of out of concern that we're safe and secure. And so to be able to ask yourself that and give yourself hopefully an answer that can kind of break you out of that is good. And then of course, if you aren't safe, get safe. So I hope that helps. Let us know if that ends up working out for you, because I know you're not alone in that situation. Jessica says, looking at what the pattern is costing me open things up, along with the trigger of what causes the pattern. I'm not sure I understood this. Alex, any insight?
Not quite. Hold on, let's look at- Not quite
Looking
sure.
at what the patterns cost. Okay, so she was just saying that the prompts were helpful. Kathy says they'll catch on. It's okay. The first time I just listened and read. Oh, talking about our abandoned journaler. Sorry, Rona. Hopefully someone catches her in the group and we can catch her up on the next one. Or maybe I'll create some content around it so people, aren't showing up to this not knowing what it is. Teresa says, pause and think. Don't pop off, was something I wrote for myself. Yes. So much of what I do is out of haste. And it's like, I used to do this technique called Alexander technique. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that, but it's popular out here in Los Angeles. All the actors do it. And, a lot of what it is like unlearning bad habits, like just ways of carrying yourself. And it's useful for things like public speaking, acting, and even just carrying yourself throughout life. And, I think sometimes our physicality lends itself to how we actually like just our state of being, right? Like if you hold yourself up and shoulders back and you're confident in a confident posture, like you tend to be more confident, right? Whereas, you can vice versa, I guess, to not be too long-winded about it. But one of the things that they used to do when I would go in for a session with Alexander technique is the practitioner would, kind of correct just the way I was standing or holding myself and, adjusting my spine and things like that. Tell me to take a deep breath, because I would always show up all over caffeinated, overhyped, just kind of what I'm doing now. And he would just say, all right, now repeat to yourself, I have time. I have time. And that was super powerful for me. And I would say it and I wouldn't believe it right away. Because immediately the first thing I would say is, I know you don't. You got this going on. You got this going on. And it's like, no, you're in a session that you booked. Like you're supposed to be here. You have time. This is your time. And so on that note, maybe it's useful just to even create time for yourself, time where you can not be in haste. I think maybe I'll try to do that. I guess I kind of do that with my morning routine, but sometimes I'll be honest, the events take over. The morning routine officially consists of journaling, morning pages, gratitude, goals, and meditation, little workout. But sometimes you see that Facebook spent $500 of your dollars in the wrong direction. You freak out and you start doing a bunch of stuff. So that's my struggle. But, maybe next time say, well, I have time. But that's a good one. Don't pop off. I like your way of saying it, Teresa. Right. Tina agrees, Mr. Alex. Awesome. Kristen said, I find that I can get defensive so fast. I can respond by slowing down, put myself in neutral, so I have some space to think clearly. Stop seeing conflict as a personal attack, just different points of view. That's a good one. That's a good one. Alex, I feel like I'm doing all the talking here.
You know what? You're talking about being over-caffeinated. I didn't get any caffeine in today, so I am absolutely exhausted. I apologize. And earlier I was up and down a lot because I decided to let our dog hang out, and it was really busy and wanting to go in and out. So I apologize, but I am just absolutely exhausted. I will chime in when necessary, but you are doing a great job, babe. So please.
Well,
continue.
no apology necessary. You are enough, and you're doing enough. I just, I need to be mindful of when I am overpowering a social scenario. That's something I'm working on. So I'm just making sure that you've got space to speak here. Cool. All right. Liz says, oh my God, Kristen, that makes so much sense regarding not seeing conflict as a personal attack. Yeah, you're allowed to you're like, variety is the spice of life, right? People are allowed to feel and think and act and behave differently. When it encroaches upon, your own freedom, then we're getting into a different philosophical discussion. But I think, what's that Mel Robbins book that's everyone's loving lately? Let them. I think that's really good. I've got a lot of people telling me that that's a great read. I gotta read that. I'm a huge Mel Robbins fan. I know a lot of you are too. But yeah, it's sometimes you have to let just let people do their thing, so that you can let yourself do your own.
It has nothing to do with you. It often has nothing to do with you. So 100%.
Chandra says, it was useful for me as well. Awesome. IntelX, I'm new here. This was great. I'm looking forward to coming back next week. Yes, got her. Or him. I don't know. I don't know. Sorry if I misgendered you. Thank you for digging deep and having us answer the hard and thought-provoking questions. Well, you're so welcome, and thank you for doing this. I really believe that self-work is the kind of work that people should start with. It's so easy to look around and find things that you're upset about and tell other people, what you think they should be doing. But the reality is, I think if we all did a little bit of reflecting, then we would go back out into the world and the world wouldn't be so chaotic and stressful. So, thank you from the bottom of my heart for the people that show up and are willing to do this kind of work. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes we ask silly questions and talk about, our dogs and stuff like that. But, sometimes we talk about deep stuff that cuts real deep, and, these things that are part of our stories, they're part of our identities. So that makes it extra hard to break out of, these patterns that are maybe negative or not serving us. And I think, well, I don't know what happens after this life, but it's possible that it's over after this. So, what are you going to do? You got to make good use of your time here. And I think that part of that is being intentional and working on the type of person, that you are, so that your output's good, so that you're leaving this place better than you found it. So thank you for showing up, and thank you for doing this work. It's awesome. Kathy says, I shut down a lot and put myself in this bubble because I believe that whatever I do must be perfect, and I'm always judged. Childhood comparisons to my cousins, to always being perfect with great grades. It didn't help that I was an only child. Man, a lot of that coming up tonight, huh? So, yeah. Well, and the other thing, I'm not a parent yet, or maybe ever. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But I think the other thing is, if you're aware that maybe you had those sorts of experiences, that's perhaps, if you're a parent and that was your experience, this is your chance to, with that newfound awareness, to break that cycle, change that, and I know a lot of you are doing that, or changing it and being better, choosing to be better. And I think that's super cool. We see a lot of shares from, the moms in this group. And I don't know what it's like to be a mom, but I see you. I know that it's hard, right? And I see that you guys are showing up week after week, and even with the struggles of being a parent, I see that you guys are bringing a lot of intentionality to that. Shout out to Mary, right? Who was Mary Kay, who was on our Monday Zoom session, and she's got her kid there, the kid's doing all sorts of things, but still she's managing to sit down and do this kind of work, and also with a ton of grace and poise for the child and the experience that the child was having. So I just think that's super cool. As much as we do the self work, we then have to go out and be citizens of the world, and sometimes that starts in your very own household, and I think it's cool. I think you guys are all good people. I think this is a good little club to be a part of, so happy about it. And with that, hold on, we lost our music. What happened? All right, time for Funky Chill Mix Part 2. Okay. Lisa, oh darn, I am late. Well, you can still benefit from the insights, maybe. D says, for me, I stop, pause, and take deep breaths, pray for bearings and directions, quick reflections that I'm good at lots of things, and this moment is a learning opportunity. That's a cool way to look at everything. Is, everything's a learning opportunity. Every moment is, right? If it's not teaching you, then why is it there? Kathy says, pushing past that fear of not being perfect and also realizing no one really cares what I do or accomplish but me. Well, I don't know nobody cares. I mean, I'm rooting for you, Kathy, but I think that is also you're touching on something that's probably true, which is just that, like, the self-consciousness that a lot of us go through is just so unmerited. Right? Like, very rarely are you being grilled the way that it probably feels like you are. I'm guilty of that myself, for sure. Norma says, my biggest pattern came from my mom always saying, what will the neighbors think? Oh no. When I was growing, I ended up always trying to people please and also to act in ways that wouldn't draw attention to myself. I'm learning how to speak up for myself and just be the way I feel like instead of worrying. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, the idea of like shrinking, like trying to hide so that you don't get that sort of negative attention. That's tough. Yeah, what will the neighbors think? That's such like I feel like that's like something you'd see on like Nick at Night, right? Alex loves all that old Hollywood stuff, but yeah, like what would like that old school, that like 50s style of parenting, right? Wait till your father gets home. Ooh. Mary Kay. Oh, there you are. Cool. My life pattern is procrastination. I stress myself out by tight deadlines and call it motivation. I call it good enough when I could do so much more or be more creative if I gave myself more time. Well, first off, I want to say you should be nice to yourself, because I didn't even see that comment, and I personally recognize that you're showing up and doing it right, doing good work, and procrastination is one of those things that we all run into. And I was actually just talking with a friend today about deadlines and how there's just, I mean, for he and I at least, they're just so necessary, because if something does not have a due date, I will just, it won't happen. It won't happen. And you know what? Sometimes that means it gets done the day before, but it gets done. And so I think, that's deadlines, they're tools, and they can help you. Now, if you are reflecting and honestly saying, I could have done more, I think, rather than making it such a, like, did I or didn't I sort of thing, well, what could you have done, right? Like, pick that apart a little bit, take a look, and I think, try to reach for that incremental gain, and also just give yourself a little bit of grace. You're an awesome person, and you're saying you could do more or be more creative if you gave yourself more time. Well, I guess that's part of picking that apart, and you've identified that you can give yourself more time. That would be a really nice thing to do, right? To give yourself more time to be more creative and show up as the kind of person that you want to show up as. I think that's awesome. So, look, from my perspective, you're doing great. You're awesome. We love you here. And from your perspective, it sounds like you've already found a way to, inch towards a better version, which I think is cool. Liz says, I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which never happened. And that's a Mark Twain quote. You can always count on the Journal Party Peanut Gallery to throw in the actual quote after I've butchered it. I can't count how many times I remember like a quote, but then totally butcher it, or I think of like a book and I'm like, what's that book? It's got hands on the cover. I just can't remember it, but somebody will call it out, remember it, and drop it in the group. It's awesome. Barry says, stress is not the legacy I want for my life or for my family. Well, that's a good intention for sure. Liz Fields, growing up, my mom was narcissistic, and for me, the trigger is my emotional trauma. Oof, yeah. Narcissistic parents, a tough one. Yeah.
I feel you on that one, Liz. It's difficult. It's a very difficult thing to deal with growing up. The narcissism is a very unique experience. So I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, well, so again, it's helpful to be in a group like this where other people can share that they've had similar experiences, and it doesn't make it right. Like it doesn't make that person not a narcissist or reduce the trauma necessarily. But I think just being able to commiserate is definitely a nice thing, and hopefully as we all do this sort of work, or Alex, I know you're a huge advocate for mental health and therapy, and probably done some deeper work on this sort of thing. So look, obviously never want to force anyone to share anything that's that is difficult or overwhelming for them, but when you do find something that helps you in a difficult situation, share it. Please share it with the group, because it's the kind of thing where we can liberate each other from these things that are that we just need to get out of the way, that are just like in the way of us living our best lives, right? And it's possible to break out of that, and it's sometimes it's hard, but other people have done it, and I think we can be bridge builders for one another. So it's tough realization, Liz, but thanks for the vulnerable share, and hopefully you can identify ways to overcome some of that. Other Liz asking, Alex, what was the approval, control, safety, security thing I mentioned? So that's actually part of Sedona method. And you can read up on that. I think there's the originator of that whole thing or technique was Larry Crane was a guy who created his own version of it. Lester Levinson, check that guy out. Interesting, very insightful guy. But yeah, I mean, it's just the idea that everything kind of boils down to approval, control, and safety, wanting all that stuff. But I guess there's a lot more to it. There's a range of emotions that we feel, and ultimately, it boils down to identifying when you're in those negative feeling states, and it's helpful to categorize them in that way. But then once you identify that, you can realize, well, I don't want to be bound by that. I want freedom over approval, control, and safety. And so what you do is you try to muster up some courage. You try to accept the situation, allow it to be what it is. And from there, you can take action if you need to, but ultimately you find peace, regardless of the situation. And you can allow these things to flow through you a little bit. And so, again, that's Sedona method. And yeah, Alexander technique's super cool, especially if you're in any kind of performance. Thank you, Alex, and our sweet Blondie. You guys are the sweetest couple.
Thank you.
You're the sweetest party people.
An incredible community.
Lisa says, the only person I am able to change is myself. Yes. That's a great insight. Totally. And, going back to the, approval, control, safety thing, oftentimes when I'm having difficulty with a person, it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to control this person. I want them to be the way I want them to be. And, you can wrestle with that all day, but you're right. You can't change that. The best you can do is allow it and move on and hopefully the best way possible. But, yeah, good share, Lisa. Kathy says, the minute my aunt did the comparisons with my kids, I limited contact big time. My kids are perfect how they ate, and that's enough for me. Well, good. So you get out in front of it. Teresa says, I keep having my Spotify turn on in the background to death metal.
No.
I mean, death metal journaling, right? Well, you know what? There's something to be said about that, though. I once had a coach who was like, you're so concerned with like being polished and good. He's like, have you ever tried just like allowing yourself to have like some crazy antisocial behavior just to like shake it out? And like, he's like, yeah, turn on some heavy metal music, just like go nuts, rock out. And like, I don't do that anymore or need to. Like, if it was just like creating that moment, that space to like really just like, I wonder if it would be helpful to have like a rage journaling session. I'll check with the therapist about that before we do that. But
I've also been wanting to take you to the rage room where you get to like, you put on some safety goggles and you have like, I don't know, bats and stuff, and you get to just crush everything in your path. And I think we could all benefit. We all have a little inner rage that bubbles up every once in a while. So highly recommend that. I know
my fear is that I'm like encouraging that to like be like part of like who I am and stuff, like by like creating that space. But maybe I think but allowing it to exist in the room and then leaving it there is maybe the key to all that.
And a
I don't know.
designated space and time, it's more than okay. It's
Yeah, I've read too much like law of attraction type stuff where I'm just afraid to like hold like hold on to any kind of negativity for too long. But like, you know what's worse than that fear is holding on to it and suppressing it, right? And so I guess, right, sometimes you got to let the cap off, let it burst out. So I don't know. We'll have to talk to our board of therapist advisors for the healthy way to handle this, so we're not leading anybody astray. Lena said, enjoying this party. Awesome. Norma said, Alex, you called it when you said, what will the neighbors think is a 50s parenting tactic. My sisters are old enough to be my moms, and they were born in the 50s. So, yep, my mom definitely had that full old school mindset. Yep. Author Debbie D. This time is like a therapy session. Well, hopefully we're doing right by you. Jimmy said, my first time watching this. Well, welcome. Glad you found us. Annie likes the idea of the rage journal. I've seen them on Amazon. I've also seen the ones where you like write and you burn it. Maybe we can make a burn it journal. Although, maybe we probably shouldn't be lighting any more things on fire here in Los Angeles, so maybe not. Kathy says, laughing at my own typos. My kids are perfect how they are, not 8. Thanks for that correction. I was like, you don't want to shame your kids for eating a certain way. But, the state of being is also important. So, good correction. Mary says, smash rooms rock.
Setting boundaries. I just...
Oh, that's weird. Alex, your audio was like, it was going and I couldn't see your lips. That was weird. All right. She was talking about Kathy. Yeah, I think there was just a delay. My bad. I'm sorry if I was speaking over you, or I don't know how it came out in the stream. But I was like, whoa, that was the last comment. But yeah. Mary likes the smash rooms. So cathartic. Okay, so you've done one. Cool. Yeah. All right. We'll do it, Alex. We gotta. I know you've been wanting to go, so we'll go. Intellect says, I want to go to a rage room. I was just looking up places to go. Yeah, I guess they're all the rage. Sorry. I'm not a dad, but I got dad jokes for days. Well, I feel like this has been going on for days. This might be the longest we've ever gone on Journal Party Live. Normally we stop at the hour, but we had stuff going on. Kathy says, thank you, girl, Alex. Well, you know what? Thank you. Thank all of you. This is the coolest thing. I'm glad that they're going on long. It means we got more participation, more stuff going on, and more good conversations, more fun and hanging out. So, we gotta bring it to an end here soon. I know it's like 10:18 in the East Coast. So, well, thank you if you stayed up that late. And, over here, we're probably going to get some dinner going pretty soon. But a couple quick housekeeping items before we go. So we have recently added some additional sessions for the premium members of the Journal Party community. So if you are in premium, we now have 2 Monday sessions that we are doing. So if you, if the original one at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern was too early for you, we now have a late session on Monday, which is at 3 p.m. Pacific or 6 p.m. Eastern. And that's our Monday goals, gratitude, and accountability session. So actually we do stream of consciousness journaling followed by gratitude. Then we set our goals when we're feeling good. And then we throw up an accountability board. And so we keep track of our goals from week to week and things that you said you were going to do. And it's been awesome. I've been getting a lot done just because, God forbid I said I was going to do something and I show up and I get shamed by the journal party community. You guys wouldn't shame me. You guys are all too nice, but it does help. The accountability has been awesome, and I know there was more people who wanted to attend. So we now have that later session checkout. And in addition to that, on Friday we now have a happy hour. So that doesn't mean you got to drink. I don't want to be championing unhealthy habits, but it's totally okay if you wanted to have a little something. But it's going to be a happy hour. It's going to be a little less formal, a little casual, kind of like this, but in a Zoom session. We'll be doing fun prompts, jamming out to some tunes and just hanging out, checking in on how your week went, offering support, celebrating our wins, just doing what we do. So if that sounds fun to you, check that out. That is available to the premium members in the group. If you need any more details for all of that, there is a program inside of the app that says premium member Zoom sessions, and it has all the information there as well as the registration. So you want to register so that you actually get the links from Zoom for that, so that you're reminded when we actually go on. And the other thing, I was mentioning this at the beginning, you'll probably see ads with Nahal on there, but we're doing the 7-day challenge again. So I was digging through all the stuff, trying to understand what's bringing people to us? What's getting people to actually start journaling? And in addition to giving away the journals and stuff, the 7-day challenge is getting people to journal. And so it's available. It is now free. You can take it again if you want. But basically it's just 7 days of guided journaling, a new guided journaling video every day. And then actually we have a 21-day version available as well. If you're here tonight, feel free to send me a DM and I'll send you the link to that. But the 7 day is a great way to get started with this. I think just getting that momentum, and also there's some habit stacking tools in there as well. A lot of people are like, well, how do you manage to do this all the time, or how do you find the time? It's like, well, I create the time, but I also use a couple of tricks. I don't know if anyone's ever read what is it, Atomic Habits. There's this concept of habit stacking, which is a pretty simple way of just adding something onto a well-worn habit. So if you get up every morning and you're having your coffee, and that's just something you're going to do, well, if you start journaling with your coffee, it's a lot easier to start journaling every day if you're already having your coffee every day. So that's just one example of how to do it. But some other people have people have different routines, and so the idea is to find ways that you can build it into your routine and get those reps in. And I think that once you see how beneficial it is to regularly engage with your journal and do this sort of reflective writing, and we have all sorts of really cool tools and resources for you. And hopefully you're feeling like it's useful and feeling like one of the tribe, one of us, one of the party people. So check that out. Send it around to people if you want. And that's really all I got. Talking about accountability, I forgot to throw this on the accountability board. I need to do the podcast. I haven't done a podcast since I put the podcast on hiatus because we were going to get married and go on honeymoon. And, I've been trying to slow my roll and getting this whole thing back into gear, but it's time. So, guys, I want you to hold me accountable. Podcast coming out next week. All right? Better come out or I'm in trouble. If Wednesday happens, you can tell me. You can tell me you're supposed to do that. All right, folks. That's all I got for you. Anything else you want to add, girl Alex?
I just want to say thank you again for including me in this community. I'm sorry today I was just beyond exhausted, so I am not firing on all cylinders, I'll tell you that much. And also, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And as always, we want to encourage everyone to make your mental health a priority. And I'm really hoping that we can incorporate some mental health awareness stuff throughout the lives for the next few weeks. So that's all for me. And thank you again. And it was so lovely seeing everyone. It's a great community. So thank you again.
Awesome. All right, folks. Well, hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, rest of your week. And if I don't see you on Friday, and